K-Rock Mid-Atlantic Rock Reviews with a good friend, Corky from Otherwise. And, the last time we had you on the show, we were sitting on church steps in some little town in Pennsylvania. I don't know where it was. But
I would say it was in Pennsylvania somewhere,
Not the altar bar, that other church.
Yeah, it was a place they took a church and turned it into a concert venue or something like that. So today's a very, very special day. Ms. MARR and I are beaming right now because we just got our customized Corky drum head. And before I show it to people, so for folks that don't know, tell us a little bit about what the drum heads are, first of all.
It's been something that I've been doing for a while. And it was mostly you either throw away your drum heads or you find another use for them, right? So I started drawing on these guys a while back, and we'd sell them for a little bit at the merch table, and then I just started, out of the time that you have available on the road, started getting a little more and more detail, but not too much. And earlier this year, we were doing a tour with 10 Years, and Jesse, the singer for that band, has been doing art on drum heads for years and years and years, and has gone to art school and all this kind of stuff. And he was just like, "Hey, man, you got to do color. You start doing some color on your heads." And I was like, "Well, I've never tried that before." And he's like, "Hold here." Runs to his bus, comes back, and gives me like 30 colored Sharpies. He's like, you are doing color now. And I was like, "Oh, God, okay." So it really put me on the spot, which was great because I've always done art for fun here or there, but I haven't really focused on it for decades. And so I just started messing around and coming up with various things to do and trying to figure out my style along the way. And now I'm getting more and more requests for very specific images and that kind of thing. And just, it's a very fun thing to do for me, and people are enjoying seeing the artwork and getting the artwork. And it's all obviously one of a kind, done for that one specific head. And I like to not repeat things if I don't have to. And even when some people will be like, "Oh, I saw the palm tree one you like, I really want palm trees." I gotta vary it somehow, to not do the same thing each time. So thankfully there's still enough ideas out there that I haven't had to repeat anything.
Now you were kind of humbly glancing over the background there. I dabbled in art a little sort of thing, but these are the real deal. Did you take college art classes or something, or is this just something that's truly just a hobby that you're able to do?
It's always just been a hobby. I've dabbled in stuff for Photoshop and a little bit of graphic design, but nothing pro, nothing like design a flyer here or mess around with some images that way. It's mostly I've been discovering my abilities throughout this year, really, because I haven't really focused on it till earlier this year. Apparently my spatial awareness can translate from one thing to another, and thankfully along the way I figured out how to erase Sharpie, because the really difficult designs, I'll start it and I'll get an outline going, and then I'll erase the entire thing and start over and all that kind of stuff. So there's just been a lot of little cool tricks that I've either tried and discovered by accident, or Jesse's given me a couple tips along the way that have been super helpful. Last time we saw him was a few weeks ago. He's like, "You're like my little protege, dude." He's like, "I give you a handful of Sharpies and you just take off. Next thing I know, you're doing these heads all of this." And the style keeps adapting over time, and it's just been a really, really cool thing to do.
So are you able to do this while you're on the road? Because the van's got to be moving. Are you able to draw while you're doing that?
I can't draw while the bus is moving. There's the table's doing this, unless that's the whole point of it. But I haven't had that idea or request yet. But it's always it's either after the show late at night if the crew's still packing out, or it's 9 times out of 10 it's in the afternoon before anybody actually shows up to the venue. So if you ever walk by our bus and see paint splatters on the ground, it's because I was doing that earlier in the afternoon when the bus got to the venue.
So hey man, you made a cool post today, and Ms. MARR and myself didn't even really know it was 5-year basically anniversary of being in Otherwise.
My first show with them was, I can't remember, I think it was Halloween night. Actually, it was Halloween night of 2010 was the first show, and when I joined the band, I had known of Otherwise for a number of years. I think they'd been around in Vegas since about 2006, and I knew them. I'd seen their name a bunch and knew they were a popular band in town. I'd seen them live a handful of times, knew they were a good band, and right around October of 2010, I was doing a drum off 3-drummer thing at a photographer's photo art exhibit in some random bar in Las Vegas. And he'd had like a band play, but he really had this thing of like wanting this whole drum jam thing to happen. And so I went over and did it, and Adrian and Ryan were in the audience that day, and he's like, "Oh, that guy's pretty good." And it was right at that same time that their other drummer had left the band. So ironically, their old bass player was bartending with Chris Cale of future Five Finger Death Punch fame.
Future, so he wasn't.
Oh God, this is years before Death Punch time, and I was in a band with Chris actually in 06, but by 4 years later, like we're still friends, but so Flavio, the old bass player, is like talking to Chris. He's like, "Yeah, we need a new drummer," and he's like, Chris is just like, "Call this guy." So Flavio goes to Adrian and Ryan's like, hey, Chris says we're supposed to call this guy. And they're like, "Call that guy right now." We just saw him play, absolutely. And we did a couple. It was 2 rehearsals, and then I did the first gig with him on Halloween of 2010.
Man, it seems like we've known you forever. It's hard to believe it's only been 5 years.
Right.
But we've become such huge fans of the band. Now, a couple more things about the Drumheads before I let you go. So, what is the most unusual request you've had so far? Could even be ours. I don't know. Probably not.
No, I mean, what's funny is like the more like realistic the image, the harder it is to draw, right? Because you have to be very, very exact in what you're doing. And I know the most difficult one was I had someone request a train, and I started trying to do it really freehand, and it was like it was kind of good, and then it got a little bit weird, and you start making like one wrong angle, and then all of a sudden you're like, "Oh, I got to make this more cartoon-esque because this is never going to work." Like that was certainly the most difficult one for me. The oddest one was I had someone, Jody, requested a ladybug. And I was like, I was like, "You want me to make a rock and roll ladybug?" I can do that. But it's funny, like I've had more than a few people be like, "You should maybe look into doing tattoo work or something like that," which is funny.
I thought of that when I saw it.
Yeah, and I was just like, I've never ever thought, like, to me, like, tattoo is a very specific art form, and I still very much consider myself an amateur artist who's trying to figure his way out, so there are certain aspects of this that are very tattoo artist-esque, because I never would have thought of drawing a ladybug, but I had someone request a ladybug, so like someone requests a tattoo, the artist got to draw the tattoo, whatever the request is. So it's funny like that. I mean, I just try to have fun with it, and incorporate some of the otherwise imagery, and I can, and it's, and again, like, I mean, Jody was a fan that's seen us so many times and has all of our shirts and we sign everything. So I mean, dude, her in particular, she could request anything. I was like, "I'll draw anything." She's like, "I want a ladybug." I'm like, "Got it."
Have there been any special stories behind any of them? Any like unique ones, or is it mostly just somebody like kind of in a way that a person would get a tattoo, something just personal?
Certain ones have certainly been like for very specific things. Like I've had a few military requests for people that had military in their family, or ex-Navy, want a very specific Navy design. Those happen for sure, but a lot of them too are just like, I want a mermaid with some lyrics, like it's in. I'm like, great.
Was that the octopus one? Did that have a similar?
No, the octopus. But when I'm just thinking of random things, I just think of random things to draw, and I think literally I had just seen. Like Miles Kennedy has a big old octopus tattoo on his arm, and I was like, "The octopus would be fun to draw," and so I just figured I'd give it a shot.
So on my birthday, the first year we were together, I thought I'd give her an impossible mission. I told her I wanted a purple octopus with red roller skates. Was it my birthday then?
It was a birthday.
Yeah, and it was pretty daggone similar to the one you did. And she went in and said, "I want an octopus with red roller skates." I thought she actually found it.
And
I almost had you do a drumhead with that.
Right.
But you already did it.
I had to pull the cake out. I would have had to find the picture of the cake to figure out what it was he requested, because it was so
exactly. The roller skates would have been a good addition. And it's so funny too. I actually started that octopus a different color, and then I was like, "No, I bet purple would look better." I don't even remember what the color was originally, but I remember I'd done like a couple of the tentacles on there, and I was like, I'll do purple instead, and I'm like trying to erase the original color, and you move it around. But yeah, so I like working with Sharpie because you can erase it along the way.
I wouldn't have thought that.
Yeah.
So we were very excited. Like I said, we're kind of beaming when we came in here because we just were able to have our special MARR Otherwise drumhead revealed to us tonight. So first of all, thank you
Absolutely.
for doing it. We didn't give you real clear instructions. We just said just make something happen, and you did. So I want to show it to everybody now. This is the MARR and Otherwise special Corky Gainsford drumhead for the very first time shown in public.
Yes.
And if there was an audience there, they would be cheering profusely right now.
But yeah, I know you guys have done the Golden Horns Awards and everything, so this is the way to pay tribute to that, and obviously you guys have supported the band for a long time and been to I know you know the count, but
I just looked it up, 26.
Yeah, exactly.
26
so 26 shows in, so it's been cool to put together a head for you guys in particular, and thematic for what you guys do and how you supported music and our band all along the way.
Well, we've been absolutely thrilled, and I'm so proud of this thing. We're going to have to find this may be on the mantle in the morning. Take down the family picture. This one's going up there. It'll be this and our granddaughter up there.
Yeah, I was telling too, like off camera, the black drum heads. I've only done a couple of these where I actually purchased a black drum head, and they're very interesting to draw on because obviously only certain colors will work on black, but I was like, dude, the gold will work awesome on the black drum head. So I'm glad that this is my last one that I had sitting around. I was glad I did because it worked perfect for this.
It looks amazing.
Cool, thank you.
Well, Corky Gainsford, everybody. Corky, thanks so much for being here. We always love having you on the show, and great stories. I learned something about you every time I talk to you. I had no idea I know Chris Cale knows you because I didn't know you were in the band together, because I don't know if I told you this or not. On the first Shiprock cruise, I think it was, we were on, we had your picture of our magazine cover of Otherwise on our door. Yeah. And we came back to our cabin and it said, I love these guys, signed Chris Cale. Yeah. We're like, oh, bull crap. Chris Cale signed my door. Saw him later. I was like, oh yeah, I signed it. I like this guy. So
Of course,
started long ago.
Down, saved it and put it
that got immediately taken down.
If you look on iTunes, look up a band called The Utmost, UTMOST, and you will hear something very unlike Otherwise or Death Punch.
Oh wow!
And that is the band that we were in. Like I said, it was 05, 06, and that band fizzled out right as it was kind of getting some opportunities, but it was certainly a growing period for both he and I before that thing fell. We lived through all the because Vegas is close to LA, so we would go down to LA and we'd have record labels be like, oh yeah, put us on the list, I'll totally show up and into your show and all this kind of stuff. And so you'd rent a van, you'd drive down there and you'd pay the club whatever $300 to play that afternoon. Not a single rep ever showed up to any show. That was a good time. I know the unsigned band struggle through many, many bands, but the one with Chris was quite special in that way.
We will look up The Utmost. Hey, never know. Might even just hear it on the Marmy Rock.
Yeah, right.
So we might just play a little bit.
You'll be surprised.
Thanks, Corky. Appreciate it, man.
Thanks.
Always a pleasure.